Today is Tuesday, July 23rd, 2013, and Joe Turner and myself, Judy Meyer, are at the Bridgeton Community Center to speak with Susan Feeler. And thanks for meeting us up here, Susan. And we've never really met before, so I'm going to be asking you some questions about where you grew up and what brought you to Bridgeton. So can you tell us basically where you started in life?
Well, I started in South St. Louis, and then my folks moved out here. And then we moved up to what's called, Berkeley Garden Home Sites.
Would that
It's
be?
right behind the old Northwest Plaza, just south of there off Old St. Charles.
South of Northwest Plaza.
Yes, between Lindbergh and 80 and Old St. Charles. And there were a small group of houses there, except everything else around it was farmland.
Is that where the, I think there's like a motel there on the corner?
Well, that was up on Lindbergh, but it was still, that was all farmland. And there was a farm that our street backed up against. It was a dead-end street, and that up against their name was Krieger. And so and those streets that we lived on all dead-ended right there at the Krieger farm property.
And what was the Northwest Plaza area like when you...
Open ground. You could see the old high school from our front porch.
And the old high school was where?
And Banks Road on St. Charles Rock Road and Banks. But you couldn't get to it that way. You had to go around, but you could see it from our front porch.
And Lindbergh was there or not
Lindbergh
there?
was, oh yes, certainly. Lindbergh's been there a long time. Lindbergh was west of where we lived. There's 80 roads on the east at Old St. Charles, and Lindbergh was on the west side. And that square is where we grew up.
And you lived in a house there?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And what brought your parents from South St. Louis to here? Do you know?
Relatives, not getting along with them. Well, I mean, this is the truth. And then there was a small area, and my grandfather, who was quite overbearing, decided that he wanted to live out there too, so he moved out, and it still didn't work. And so my folks moved on from Cypress Road, which is where the Shepherd of the Hills Church is about now, just about that area. They moved up to where I grew up. I moved there when I was about 4 years old, and stayed until I was 20 and married away from there.
Well, if you grew up there by Cypress, then that was still Bridgeton, correct?
You know, I honestly don't know, because St. Anne did not exist then, so I'm not sure what it was.
Mm-hmm. But where did you go to school?
Pattonville.
Okay, and where'd you go to grade school?
Pattonville.
Was the name?
Kindergarten through to 12th grade.
Was the name of the school what?
Was Pattonville Elementary School.
And where was that?
Here on Fifi Road.
Was it by where that credit union is right now?
That's the new one. The old was across the street from there. That was not the original Pattonville School District. That was one that was built, oh gosh, I guess maybe in the 1920s. And it was pretty good size. And it took the place of the original little one. And then a few years later, that one became obsolete. Well, it wore out, I suppose. And then they put the new one in, and that was the new Pattonville grade school. And
Where the credit union
Where the credit union is now.
And that's where you attended?
Nope, I went to the old one.
Oh, okay.
It was beige, it had 2 wings on the end. I mean, to me it was huge. It wasn't very big, but to me it was great because I was a kid.
Uh-huh.
And it had two floors. It actually had 3 levels, but one was below the ground line, basement. And then 2 levels above it. So to me, that was a pretty good sized building, it should say, because I was just a little kid. I went, oh, yeah. So,
did you have brothers or sisters?
I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters.
Are they older or younger?
They're all younger. I'm the oldest.
Oh,
and they all also went from kindergarten to. In fact, when my folks decided to move where they eventually wound up, my brother and sister insisted that stay at the Pattonville School District, because they were by that time middle school, maybe a little older, and they said, we want to finish there.
I see.
And so they did.
Now, did they have a middle school, or how far did the Pattonville School go up to?
Pattonville School, we graduated from the 6th grade, and then we went over to the high school for 7, 8, and then started officially 9th grade. But it was all in the old Pattonville High School building.
Which was on St. Charles Road.
St. Charles and Banks.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
So what year did you graduate from high school?
1955.
Oh, okay. What was high school like? What do you remember about high school?
That you knew everybody. Just about everyone you knew. And you knew who they had, brothers and sisters. If they came along, you knew who they were, which was quite nice to a point. And that's, we all get together, they say, you can't be your brother, you can't be your sister. But if you get them all together, you'd say, oh yeah, they all look alike. Family resemblance type of thing. But yeah, it was interesting. And this is what the old school looked like.
Can you hold that up
Sure.
for us to see? And that's the school on St. Charles Rock Road.
That was the St. Charles Banks Road School, yes.
Since your brothers and sisters were younger, did any of them go to the new school then?
Oh, yes. At least the last two. And then my daughter graduated from there also.
Oh, really?
Yes, she started at Normandy, like her father did, and then we moved, in the process of moving, we wound up back in Bridgeton, and she graduated from Pattonville High School on Creve Coeur. I guess is that Creve Coeur? Yeah, I guess it changes around. I have no idea. They keep changing it. Good old St. Louis. You stay on the same street and it have 14 names. Yeah.
Right, and sometimes they change. One street will change to another name.
That's what I mean. That's exactly
Right.
what they do.
Yes.
But you're still on the same road.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Did you have outside activities when you were in the high school? Like, did you get a part-time job or anything?
Not if I could help it. No. No, I really didn't. There was really not too much to work on around here. There was a couple of places that you could get waitress jobs or something such as that. And my dad said no, he didn't think that was a good idea. And so I didn't really go to work until I graduated from high school.
I see. Were you in any activities then in school? Do you remember?
They didn't have a lot of outside activities at that particular time. They had some sports and things like that, which I wasn't interested in. Mm-hmm. But not anywhere like they have today, not anywhere near like they have today. But I guess if you wanted to, you could probably find some things to do.
Was your mother working at the time?
Oh no, oh gosh, no, not way back then. They just didn't do that sort of thing.
Well, how big was your house? You say you had, 2 brothers and 2 sisters?
Yeah.
And yourself?
Right.
Well, what was your house like?
Well, the first one, of course I don't remember too much about the first one, but the second one was just a small house with probably 2 bedrooms, and we just shared the rooms, my sister and I, and then my younger brother. But there's like 5 or 6 years between all of us children. The kids, with my parents, 20 years to have 5 kids. Well, because they just started out that way, and so my sister and I would share a room, and then the gentleman came along, would move in with a crib type of thing, and then go on from there. And then when they moved to the other house, then there were 3 bedrooms that we could share. The boys and the girls could share, have their each.
Where was the other house?
Right next door.
Well, why would you move to?
Because the people who looked at my dad built the house. We had 2 spots, two
Lots?
Lots, I was going to say. We put a garden in one for a couple of years, so then they went ahead and he built this house, and it wasn't big enough for the people who were looking. They also had a large family. So they took the old house, and we moved next door. And then I stayed there until I married.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess I was about 12 or 14 we moved into that house, and then stayed there until I married at 20.
Well, what did you do when you graduated from high school?
Oh golly, I worked at a bank.
Where was the bank located?
The bank was Old Bank of St. Anne, and it's now called Regions. And it's in the same spot in St. Anne, right at Ashby and St. Charles Rock Road. And it was quite a bit smaller then. Because, in fact, the building is still there, I believe. Isn't that the optometrist?
I don't know.
Well, okay, I think that's what it is. And I don't remember what the name of the optical company is, but that's the actual building that was there. And I was a bookkeeper for a while, and then the man who was my boss said, I think I would like you to be a floater. And I said, oh. And he said, yeah. He said, that way, if somebody's out, you can do their job. So I wound up doing a little bit of everything. And I wound up being a teller.
I see.
The way I do math wasn't a good idea. No, it's okay.
Did you drive? Did you drive at that time?
No. So
how did you get to work?
I had a girl that picked me up, and I paid her so much a week for picking me up. And sometimes I could walk to the bus line to take a bus. It was no big deal. But then later on, much later on, when my husband took his job where he was going to be traveling a great deal, I had to learn how to drive whether I wanted to or not. And I'll tell you right now, learn to drive before your kids can talk. Because they tell all the dumb things you do. You know, "Hey, what'd you guys do today?" "Well, Mother did." And I'm, okay, you know, and that's true. But when he took that job on the road, I had to. It's just, I didn't have a choice. Because I really wasn't interested. It's a drag.
And driving, you mean?
Sometimes it can be, yes.
Well, how did you meet your husband?
A blind date.
Okay. And what was his name?
His name is John.
And he's not living now?
No. No, his sister and I went to Pattonville High School together. She went to Old St. Mary's, and when she got ready for high school, she came to Pattonville. And I didn't know that he existed because he was older than her, and he went to Normandy.
Oh.
So she said, "What time would you like to go out with my brother?" And I said, "I don't think so. He's too young." And she said, "No, my older brother." And I said, "My brother, well, I might have a date Saturday." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, if he shows up, I've got a date. If he doesn't, I'm not going to worry about it." And she said, "Oh, teenagers." I can still remember that. Anyway, and he did.
He showed up?
He showed up.
And what did you do on your date?
Oh, I thought that was a horrible thing. We went bowling.
Why was it so horrible?
Because we went bowling, and I'd never done bowling but maybe once in my whole life. It was horrible. I think one of two things. He either thought, "I got to take care of this poor soul because nobody else, she doesn't know what she's doing," or maybe he really thought he was going to teach me something. I don't know. But he showed up. He came back. So, yeah. But my mother said, "If he shows up," I said, "Well, you know," I said, "I don't know if he does. If that's really good. If he doesn't, well, that's okay too."
Didn't you have a telephone at that time?
Oh, sure. Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was out in the boonies, but it wasn't that far out. Come on. But
Did your phone have a dial on it?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. A rotary dial.
Yes.
Oh sure.
Yeah.
I almost wish I still had it. Come to think of it, the thing I got is worth squat. That's that point.
What was your prefix? Mine was Evergreen. You
Okay,
remember?
yeah, because you lived in, yeah. Okay, mine was Thornwall, something like that. And Thornwall 5, believe it or not. I remember that part. I can remember the rest of it. And when we first moved there, we didn't have a phone. We used our neighbors. They had a party line, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So the lady that was lived across the street from us was on the party line with the people who lived behind us in the next street over. That didn't set too well. Anyway, because she had kids and they'd use the phone too much for this lady over here. So it worked out. And then when we got our phone, it was okay. You had your own line. But if we had to use the phone, we had to go over across the street and then wait for somebody to get off the line.
I don't think the young people nowadays probably could even fathom that. Everybody has their own cell phone now.
Right.
And so you didn't make as many phone calls then.
No, it was something important.
I see.
You had to make appointments or something such as that, or something, or maybe call your relatives. Well, my mother was one of 11 children. She had lots of sisters and brothers. And when they all lived in the city, they thought coming out here was like coming to the country. Oh yeah. But we even had an unpaved road. The kids called it the alley.
The alley?
Mm-hmm. You go down this alley, and that's where they live. Okay.
Well, you said when you and your husband got married, where did you marry?
At Calvary United Church of Christ in Overland.
In Overland. And then where did you live when you first got married?
Luxnut Village.
Oh, really?
In Normandy. Mm-hmm. Right across the street from the cemetery. Nice, quiet neighbors. No wild parties, nothing like that. And we lived there for 12 years. We really liked apartment living. We really did. But then my husband got transferred with this job.
To what?
Pittsburgh.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a big move. So we were around the edge of the Blue Ridge Mountains. It was beautiful, very pretty.
And then what brought you back to St. Louis?
He quit his job and moved back here and went into work for himself.
Okay. What kind of work did he do?
Salesman. And he had his own business, and he was a manufacturer's rep for several different companies, and so he traveled a great deal.
And you have children?
One.
So did you work then at that time?
Off and on, yeah. Well, until I got tired of it, then I quit, and then I go back for a while and quit again. Yeah. But about the time we decided we were going to buy a house, which our daughter done wanted, she wanted a pet. You could have lots of kids. You couldn't have any pets at the village, in the village. It was privately owned, so once you had your third child, they gently suggested that you did not renew your lease. And they could do that back then. Oh yeah. And like I say, it was privately owned, so they could do. I knew a lady who had a 5-room apartment, and they 1 year did not renew her lease because they wanted that apartment for a larger family. They just didn't do it, and they got by with it. Well, that was way back in the 70s, early 70s.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Anyway, so we decided it was time to get a house. And just about the time they were ready to dig the hole, which they didn't even do, he was transferred. Charming, huh?
Yes.
And that didn't set too well for a while. and then when we barely got there and got settled, they wanted to move on to another city and do the self-same thing. And he said no, that he'd uprooted us enough. And then he got back with a fellow back here, and they decided they'd go into business with each other for themselves. And they did quite well, thank you.
So when you moved back to St. Louis, then where did you live?
Back in the house that I moved out of when I got married.
It was vacant or what?
Yes, it was the real estate company. The real estate market was pretty bad, and they couldn't sell it. People were happy to buy a new house as opposed to an old one. And so I just said to him, I said, "Don't rent it. We're coming home." He said, "Okay." And so we did that, and we stayed there about 5 years until the business got off the street, onto its feet, I should say. And then we bought, and that's where I'm staying now.
Which is?
More Harmon Estates.
Oh.
Yeah.
So your daughter was how old then when you?
Okay, she was 10 years old, and she had started school in Normandy at Jefferson.
Uh-huh.
And then when we went up there. She was in 3 different 4th grades that year. That didn't go too well. And then we moved back here, and she finished at Pattonville.
What school did she go to? Grade school then, or was she in grade school?
She went to Jefferson in Normandy, and then she went to Briarcrest for a short time.
Okay.
And that was like 5th and 6th grade, I think. And then she went over to the middle school,
Mm-hmm.
and then on to Pattonville.
I see.
And when we got through here in 55, we had 71, I think, or 72 people. And when she graduated from Pattonville in 77, I think there were 700 in her. I mean, it was like ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and I also ran into 2 or 3 people that I went to school with here who had their kids at Pattonville that year.
Is that right?
Yeah, so that was kind of neat.
So you must have felt comfortable in bringing your family back here to grow up and go to school here.
Oh, sure. All of our family was here. We're the only ones who moved away. And so, in order for like I say, when he decided he was going to quit the big company and come back here and start over again, they said, "Oh boy, this will really be good about that." And I said, "Well, if need be, I'll go back to work." But I said, "I'm so angry with you about doing this whole situation, uprooting us and then uprooting us again." I said, "Support me," and he did.
Well, you moved in the 50s by Northwest Plaza, and it was.
Oh no, hon, we moved in the 40s by Northwest. I was only 5 years old.
And Northwest Plaza started as a shopping mall in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Were you around at that time?
Oh sure, because my folks still live in that house.
What did you think about that whole idea of this developing into this big shopping area? What did you think about that?
Well, I was happy for my mother because she didn't have a car, so she could get around as far as driving. It was a great place to shop. It was the place to shop when they opened that thing up. I mean, everyone had flocked there, and they had everything. And when I moved back in, we came back. We could walk over there in the evening. They would have concerts. Turn all the fountains off so it's nice and quiet, and then everybody could walk home safely, very safely. I mean, you could take your children and almost let them go, but not quite, not that far. But yeah, it was. I thought it was great.
Where did you do your grocery shopping?
At Schnucks there was a Schnucks store there.
At the upper parking lot.
In the upper parking lot.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. There was a Schnucks store, and there was a toy store, and there was, oh my goodness, almost anything that you want, it was there. Which was, and I don't exactly know why they even decided to close it, which was, I think, was the kiss of death. Now, this is my opinion. It was nice when the snow's hitting you on top of the head, but as far as the actual shopping was concerned for safety, it wasn't. It really wasn't safe. I don't think so. I mean, I'm just a crabby old bat, so what do I know? No, really and truly, I mean, it seems like, okay, Crestwood is gone. Jamestown is gone.
Northland.
Yep, there you go. Yep.
What do you think's gonna happen with Northwest Plaza now in 2013?
I'm interested to see. I thought I had read 2 or 3 different things that are supposed to be going in there. I thought they had read that there were going to be some apartments for senior citizens in that area. I thought so. I don't know for sure. And if there are, then there better be some walk-around shopping in there too, or it's going to go downhill just like the other one did. Because once you get to the point, well, I'll say it, at my age, driving gets to be a chore, and it can be scary for an older person when your reflexes slow down. So this way, if that's the case, and they have some housing for older people, I'd be interested in going and staying there.
Really?
I would indeed. I want to stay in this area. I do quite a bit of volunteer work in this area, and I would be happy to stay here. My daughter lives in West Jesus, but I'm sorry about that. Anyway, so it was out pretty far, and they wanted me to move out there too, and I said no. Everything I do is here, doctor, church, the whole 9 yards. And if something like that opens up, I would be willing to put my name on the list.
Now, right now you live where?
I live in Harmon Estates.
Do you remember when that area first opened? When it was still...
Not particular. We couldn't afford it then, so I didn't even look. I looked at some of the smaller places that we could afford, and then we kept waiting for the business to take off, and it did finally. And that's when Harmon opened up by that time, and then I started looking there. And my husband wanted one that was close to the highway because he traveled on the highways, and it worked out perfectly. And in the school district, because we had to, our daughter was at Briarcrest then, and so it had to be in the school district, and it just worked well for us.
How old is your daughter?
Now,
Now.
I lie about it so much I forgot how old she is. She's about 52, I think. She seems to show a fit.
Did she marry someone from Pattonville?
No, she married someone there again. 2 doors down, there was 3 boys lived there, and one of them was about her age, and he introduced her to the man she's married to now. They were buddies, and so and it was really nice because there's some girls her age were living in this neighborhood, so they all ran it as a group, which is good. Mm-hmm. And one of the girls introduced her to this man, I should say. I'd say young, because she was out of college by that time, and so he was about, I don't know. Anyway, she was about 24 when they married, so about 22, I guess.
Where did they marry?
At Bethlehem United Church of Christ, which is now Temple Christian on Old St. Charles.
Oh.
And Temple Christian was, I said, Bethlehem UCC. It was right around the corner. Actually, I tried to get them to build a sidewalk from my house to the church so I could walk to church, but they didn't do that. I don't know why they didn't do that. Well, anyway, but it's like on Old St. Charles, right down from where the mayor lives, right we're at Taylor and
yes.
thing. It's right there.
Okay.
And so it was very handy.
Okay.
And she was married there.
Mm-hmm. And so tell me, you said you do some volunteer work in Bridgeton.
Yes.
What is it? What are you involved in?
Community Helping Ministry.
What is that all about?
Okay, we do money help with some rent, utilities. Whether there's a food pantry, which I work at.
Where is the food pantry?
It's there. It's in Arlington United Methodist Church. Yeah. Okay. And the food pantry is there. There's a small office. We have volunteers that staff the office. We have a paid leader, of course, director. And let's see, what else?
What kind of work do you do for this?
I do the pantry. Yeah, I do pantry work.
How many days a week are you there?
One day, and then I'm what they call a floater. They have a floater there too. If someone can't be there on, say, a Tuesday or a Thursday, where they call and say, "Can you fill in?" And I try my best to do that. And we're collecting school supplies. We have a Christmas program, Christmas gathering of things so the children they can shop there. The adults can shop, not the children. And Easter, we give things out at Easter time and Thanksgiving and school supplies now, and we'll do Christmas, of course.
Where do you get all your donations?
We hit all the churches. We have, along with about 15 churches or more maybe. We also have the Bridgeton Kiwanis are very active with us, which is great, and we work with them too, with whatever they do. I mean, if they're having something, we make sure that we go to their things that they have, and let's see what else. There's
How
so
long
many.
have you been involved with them?
Well, let's see. My granddaughter, they moved in with me before she was born, and they lived there 5 years. That was fun. Anyway, I guess about 20 years or more.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I also had done volunteer work at Normandy Methodist Church when we lived in Normandy for a short time. And then I was out for a while, and then we moved back here, and I started going and hearing about this, and I thought, that sounds like something I'd be interested in doing. I mean, if it was volunteer work, you'd do maybe a couple of hours a week or something. And I thought, well, I could probably do that. And with my daughter being away at school and John being on the road like this, I had a lot of free time. And even if I wanted to stay home and do all the work, which I should have done, I didn't. I'd rather be out doing. And so, I mean, it's more fun to be out and about than it is to sit home and dust.
Yes, I agree. I agree with
Anyway,
that.
but anyway, so it's about 20 years.
I see.
I used to take Mallory with me wherever I went. So every once in a while somebody said, what's she doing now? And of course she's an adult now. And I'll tell them what she's doing. And they do remember her.
Mm-hmm.
I also took her, she was the youngest member of the children's home, Ladies' Aid.
The children's what?
The children's home, Ladies' Aid, that I belong to. And down the street there's Evangelical Children's Home, which has been down there for 100 years. It has been 100 years, when we think of it. And the ladies, I would take her with me and in her little carry thing and sit on the back on the floor while they were having their meeting and feed her. And then, that she was one of the ladies, and people still remember her for that too. So anyway, just busy.
Do you take part in any of the tours they offer here for the
Oh,
seniors?
yes, absolutely.
Where have you gone with them?
Oh golly. Well, I went to the library. The last one I went was the new library, the new refurbished library. Excuse me, not the new library. And
In downtown.
downtown, it's fabulous. What I liked about it was that they could save so much of it. They didn't have to replace a lot of things, so some of it's original, which I like that. But when they go to some places I'm just not interested in, I don't go.
But they offer a variety
They
of
do
places.
indeed. They certainly do offer. Mary and the girls here do a really good job of getting everybody. Everybody gets to do something they like to do. It's not just individually say, well, we're going to go here. Well, and I think I've been to Kimswick with this group because I never have been there before, and just things like that. But when they go to some places I'm not interested in, I go. I stay home. So. It's like I say, it's. My mother was, well, she had a number of children, and they were spaced so far apart that it took her like say 20 years to have 5 kids and raise them, and so she always had little ones that she drug along behind her. So she didn't get to until the last one was in high school, and then all of a sudden she said, "Now it's my turn," and boy did she fly! Woo! She was. A judge at the polls here.
Oh, an election judge?
Oh, yes, indeed. And then she was a pink lady for a while, and she did all sorts of things because she was free to go. But she stayed home and it took until my brother, I think my youngest brother was like maybe halfway through high school. And she said, okay, now it's my turn. I'm going to go.
Now, are your brothers and sisters, any of them live in Bridgeton now?
No.
No?
No, I'm the only one who lives on this side of the river. They all went west.
St. Charles, St. Peter's?
St. Charles, St. Peter's. One lives at Truxton. It's way out there. It's way out.
Uh-huh.
And but basically the St. Charles, Wentzville area type of thing. O'Fallon, St. Peter's. I mean, I'm through where they all went. Yeah, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And we see each other. We have a meeting, luncheon once a month. We get together.
Really, your family?
Just the brothers and sisters. Well, others, the children are invited too if they want to come, the adult children. But we get together once a month. And then we catch up on your kids and your kids and my
Right.
kids, this sort of, because they're all scattered.
Yes.
And so it's really neat. And my youngest, the middle brother, he and his wife went on a float trip on the Danube just recently. So
Wow.
I'm waiting to hear about that because
Sure.
I'm sure that they'll have pictures, I hope. And and the other one is they have horses. He and his wife and daughter, they have horses. They're out in the St. Peter's area or Harvester or somewhere. And but we all stick together, or stick close together.
Do you remember when they started building in the Earth City area?
Money Dear, I remember when Earth City was flooded the first time.
Flooded?
Not 93, in the 50s.
Oh,
The levees broke and all the Kratz airfield was underwater. Oh yes, and then you drove out you didn't even get to the old bridge, and it just stopped because it had broken through the concrete. It was really very, for a kid who was as a teenager, it was very impressive to see all that water, all of it. Because we had just seen the river itself as you go over the bridge, but to see all that water on what was open ground at one time, it was pretty impressive, yes. And then, of course, they built it all back up again, and then, of course, it started building up as far as and there's things out there that I didn't even know existed. I talked to a lady just recently, and she works for the Kellogg Company. I didn't know the Kellogg Company had an office out here.
I did not either.
See, out there, out in one of those buildings, it's there. Because I said to her, well, where exactly do you work in Earth? Because she's at Earth City. I said,
Right.
well, it covers a lot of areas. She says Kellogg's, and I said, and I'm thinking, the only thing I know of Kellogg's is cornflakes, And she said, yeah, the Kellogg cereal company. So, but there's all sorts of things out there we don't even know about.
Well, there's a food pantry out there also, Operation Food Search, I think.
Yeah, that's where we get a lot of our things, out of food search, and we get things out of the food bank. When you have to mark those because they have to have a report every month of how much stuff of theirs that we give out. So we mark everything FB, that sort of thing, and that's what the lady who is our director is doing right now. Is doing all the end of a month reports they have to go in. So it's just driving her crazy. I said, I will let's leave you alone. I said, I'll work my 4 hours at the pantry. I said, I'll leave you alone. So anyway, but yeah. So the food search, they do a good job. They really do. But gosh, there's such a need for that sort of thing. And we have people coming in with bills that you would not believe how big they are, utility bills. And we can't help them with everything. Bridgeton has a program that they help with. They call Bridgeton Grant.
I didn't know that.
If I should say that or not. Well, if I do, okay. Anyway, but you have to be a Bridgeton resident, and there's a certain amount. It's a certain level of that. That's all you get, and on a yearly basis. Also, Pattonville School has what they call Pat Care, and they too will let you have a certain amount once. But I didn't realize there were that many people in need in this area. But there are. And at the first of the month, we get a lot of people in, and then we get more coming in, and then we run out of money, and we give them food. We don't ever turn them away for food, but no more money. And they bring in these bills that you just think, how did they get so high? How did they get so far out of control? But I guess they're so busy raising and spending it for daily things that the monthly things get kind of pushed aside. I suppose, I don't know, but it's an eye opener to see these people coming in. It really is.
We just be thankful that we don't have to use your services.
Yeah.
Let's put it
Oh,
that
I agree.
way.
I absolutely agree. We have ladies come in. I had one lady come in. I happened to be working in the office that day. She was about my age at that particular, a couple of years ago. And all of a sudden she said, this is the first time I've ever had to ask for help. And she started to cry. And so I did too, of course. It's really hard. And have men coming in that they work on a daily basis. They get paid by the day because that's the only kind of work they can find. My dad worked for Curtis Wright. That's one reason why they moved out here in the 40s, in the late 40s. mid-40s, when their critters were there. And he always had a job. And then when McDonnell Douglas took over, he still had a job. I mean, and so we didn't have a whole lot because he was taking care of 7 people. But the thing is, there was always money to do something. And they never had to ask for any help from relatives or anything such as that. Of course, they grew up during the Great Depression, so maybe they learned how to stretch it out. But the people who come in here, I don't know if it's because we had not so much our children had so much money that we had, so that we just give it out. They were used to getting everything they wanted, and they just buy it like anything they want, they buy, and all of a sudden they're in debt, and they don't know how to get out of it.
Right, it's easy to get the credit cards.
Years ago, when the credit cards first started out, I was about 20, I guess, working at that bank, and I said to my boss, I said, this is going to cause some people a lot of trouble. And he said, you know what, out of the mouths of babes. And I said, yeah. He says, that's what you said. You said it. They're going to get in trouble if they can't control their spending.
Right.
And they do.
Right. What do you think about the changes on St. Charles Rock Road from the Northwest Plaza, starting at basically Northwest Plaza area, because that's sort of like the cutoff St. Anne, into Bridgeton. And if you think about the businesses and what's there, and how do you remember it, maybe?
Oh my goodness.
Or what do you remember about it?
Okay. Well, there was Lambert, and then there was the children's home. There was a doctor who lived there also. A doctor that took care of the children in all the areas of the home and around, because I went to him too. And that was on the home grounds. That white house that's on the end of this, up closest to Lambert, was his home and his office. Oh yeah. And then there was that church and the little church across the street, and there were some houses.
Mizpah? Are you referring
yes.
to?
And Brannige's. And then the Lucas house was right
Right.
across the street, okay? And then there was a garage, like a repair shop, and a barber shop and something else there. And then there was a restaurant. And that's about it as far as business was concerned. I remember Brannige's, of course, naturally. And then there were some private homes farther on down the Rock Road. And then there was, out to Kratz, there was nothing except the airfield out there. And you went across the bridge, and there was St. Charles, and that's where you shopped. You either shopped at St. Charles or you shopped in Wellston, one of the two, either one. And I don't know, let's see what else. But I do remember those. I got pictures in some of these books of these old, the garage for one thing. I remember that one because I went to school with the girl whose dad owned the place. So that was, that we went to school together. Okay. Anyway, and Brannige's, of course. I went to school with Jack in lower grade school. Then he went on. I think he went on to Lutheran. I think I'm not. Yeah, I think so. Okay, there. I wasn't quite sure, but I run into him because some friends of mine sent their kids to Lutheran North, and that's where Brannigan sent their kids. So we all kind of, oh yeah, we all got together. Anyway, but there was nothing. Well, now on 80 Road at St. Charles Rock Road, there was another service station and a grocery store, and a bar, which I wasn't paying attention to that, and. That was about it till you got to St. Anne, and then it started building up. And then when Mr. Vatterott took over, of course, it really bloomed. It really blossomed. But now, I don't think I should say anything about that. Anyway, no.
Well, do you think that's one reason why Northwest Plaza was such a success in the beginning, because there wasn't a lot of shopping in the immediate area?
Absolutely, and they had everything. They had a drugstore, which was Walgreens, and they had a grocery store. And they had little small shops and this sort of thing. Of course, Famous and Sticks and all over, and Vandervert's. Oh, do you remember Vandervert's?
A little bit.
Oh, it was the place. It was the place to shop. When you walked in, it was quiet, and it was. And the only thing I can think of that is anything like it would be Saks. And even at Saks, even Saks now is a little bit too much for me. Vandervert's was like, it was like stepping into velvet. It was so nice. Anyway, because so we went downtown to shop. We got on a bus down at St. Charles Rock and 80 and went into Wellston and changed places. There was a streetcar. There were streetcars there too. Streetcars. Do you remember streetcars? No, you probably don't. You don't remember streetcars.
How
Okay,
far out
fine.
did the streetcar come at that point?
It went to Wellston. That's as far as
No,
they
I
went.
mean, coming out this way.
Oh,
That stopped at
Edmondson Road.
Edmondson.
Yeah, now, and there again, sometimes we would go that far. If we had to go all the way down to, like, way downtown, to almost to the riverfront, then we'd start there and then work our way in. But, and we had a St. Louis County bus service, and then they had the city bus, and the streetcars were city road. And that was, Edmondson Road was the turnaround.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah, is that a Schnucks there now?
the what?
I think there's a Schnucks store there now where that turns.
Yes,
Oh.
that's just about right. It was just about right. That's it. Whatever they're gonna do with that down there too, who knows? Anyway, and I started to say, don't get me started on Walmart.
All right, we don't have to talk about that.
If I had been on the committee here, we wouldn't have had that, but that's beside the point. Anyway, you can block that one out there. Anyway,
You
that's,
remember Grandpa Pigeon's being on
oh,
there?
I certainly do.
That was
When-
quite a big
Great.
place to shop.
Grandpa Pigeons, when they first opened up over at the Wedge, there was that. They had chicken wire around the bottom of the building, under the level of the floor, where it was open, where it was like put on stilts or something, in order to keep like the animals out, this sort of thing. Like it was chicken wire. It actually was. I mean, they had everything there. And I remember looking at dishes one time, and they were in the barrels with the straw in between them. So when you took the dishes out, you just switched it off like that. It's strange. Yeah, but that was a fun place to shop at for some years later, because you could buy inexpensive greeting cards for one thing. They were $2 for $1, big deal. Where they are now here, but at that particular time, that was a big deal, and you get anything you want practically. That was interesting.
Grandpa Pigeon's was an interesting place to go.
Yeah.
My husband always liked to go there.
Yeah, I know. That's it. You just kind of wanted to go and find all kinds of stuff. And then, of course, the Westlake Park, that we used to have our school picnics there. Yeah, my mother used to go, oh, I don't know, this stuff looks awfully rickety.
Yeah.
Well, it probably was.
Yeah.
Most those places are anyway. You know how
Yes.
that goes. But they had a dance floor. Yeah, and they had swimming pools, two pools, and a dance floor, and what else did they have? A roller coaster, which
The fun house,
and the fun house. Oh yeah, they had that
the
too.
big sliding board.
The big sliding board, the fun house. Did you couldn't possibly remember that?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you? That was a
They'd
fun
give
thing.
you a gunny sack.
Mhm. That's
So
exactly
you
what they
wouldn't burn
did.
your seat.
Yep, that's what they did. And let's see what else that did. And a friend of mine has a book that is a history of this area and his pictures. And I called her last night and said, could I borrow it? And she said, I'll try to find it. Well, she didn't find it. But if she does, it's worth looking into. And she would loan it to us to look at it. And then, of course, want it back naturally. In fact, she handed it to my wrist so she could make sure she got it back. But I didn't even know they had one that was printed. But somehow one of her kids got a hold of it for her because she lives right on 80 Road, right before you get to the McDonald Park, right at that area, and so she would be interested in this thing. So anyway, that's anything else. Like I say, it would. But shopping it was at Wellston, you could shop in Overland too, but it was not as big as far. But they had a grocery store and they had a couple of small dress shops.
There was a movie theater in Overland too. wasn't
There was a movie theater there. There was one the building is still standing in St. John. Although they've taken down a lot of the building on the corner of Brown and St. Charles Rockwood, and that Masonic temple was there, had been there forever. I mean, ever since I was a kid, it was there, and now it's gone.
And there was a movie in St. Charles.
Oh, in St. Charles. Oh,
Was
yeah.
that the Strand?
I don't know that. I don't
Yeah, it
know.
was
We
right
would
on
go
Main
to
Street.
the Beverly in University City, the Gem in St. John, and the Overland. The Overland wasn't. It was kind of trashy.
That was right
on Woodson Road. It was right on
Woodson. Oh,
right,
okay.
just about where the funeral parlor is, a little bit down from there, in that general area. The Overland show was in pretty bad shape when I was a kid, because things would crawl across the floor, or not crawl, but run across the floor, and it just pick up your feet because you were kids. Well, they,
Yeah.
they didn't care, but it was interesting. So, but see, my folks grew up in South St. Louis, and my father, I got pictures of my father on a pony. He had his own pony in the city of St. Louis. So, I mean, when they moved out
It
here,
was really his own pony,
it was his own.
because itinerant people would come
I know
around
they
with
did.
ponies
Yeah, I
and take
pictures
your kids'
of,
pictures.
yeah,
Right.
pictures of my mother on something like that. But this was his pony. He was about 10 years old, I guess. And I'll tell you this story, and this is probably about the end of it. He used to watch the old Tom Mix movies, and the cowboys used to hop. They put their hand on the pommel. They put their foot in the start and swing their foot over and the pony took off.
And he kept going,
Daddy did.
yeah.
His dad borrowed the pony one day, and he said, "Dad, you better, He's, I can do this. I told you he was very, very, very domineering. I can do this. I can do this. Well, he put his foot in the stirrup, and he went to touch the thing on the pommel, and the pony took off.
Oh,
And needless to say, it didn't set too well. Anyway, he said, "Yeah." I said, I paid for that one." I said, "I'll bet you did." But yeah, he had his own. But my grandfather was a farrier, and so he had horses all around the thing. Anyway, in the city, he did from Peevely Dairy years and years ago.
Now, there's a word we haven't heard lately.
No, I guess not, because they tore the building down.
No, not Peevely, but farrier.
Oh, farrier. Oh, yeah.
Everybody confuses him with the blacksmith.
No, he
What's
was a
the
horseshoer.
difference?
Yeah.
So the farrier does horseshoes?
Yes.
And the
And the
blacksmith does what?
Yeah, he makes the horseshoes. Well, my grandfather could do that too, but he basically repaired them and then put them on the horse's hooves. But yeah, he worked for Peevely Dairy for a good long time, and then of course
Graham and Shoto.
yeah, that was phased out. Of course, naturally, it took a
Yeah.
while. But and I remember glass bottles being delivered to your house with milk on them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's been a long time. You can't find a glass bottle for milk if you made up your own glass, for that matter. But yeah, they were hand delivered. And even when we lived in the village and Laura was little, he walked up 3 flights of stairs and delivered those glass bottles of milk. So that was interesting. And that's been a long time. I'm an old brat. I'm really an old lady. So well, I moved out here when I was not quite 5 years old, because I started kindergarten and went all the way through school. And so I've been out for a good long time.
so you enjoy still being here in the Bridgeton area?
Yes, I hope to stay here. Yes, I really, because everything I do is in this general. Not that I couldn't start doing going to church, going to other places, but it's a whole lot easier just to keep on doing what you're doing. And I have a lot of people I know here, some good friends, some just that are just acquaintances. I know a lot of people here, and I intend to stay here as long as I possibly, physically as long as I can.
Well, we hope you do, and really appreciate you coming and joining us
Thank you.
today and talking and sharing with us. And
I hope I didn't talk your arm off. I told you I would.
no, it was fun. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Susan.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you, Susan.